Welcome back, you silent assassins, you masters of emotional warfare, you beautiful, terrifying ghosts who learn to weaponize stillness. Yeah, I see you there, sitting in that chair with that half smile, that calm that makes people nervous, that energy that doesn't scream but somehow deafens entire rooms. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? That moment when they betrayed you, that moment when the knife went in, when the lies surfaced, when the masks dropped, and you... No tears, no rage, no public meltdown, no begging for answers, no desperate phone calls. At 3 a.m., asking why, nothing, just silence, just that cold, calculated, bone-chilling silence that made them check their phones, wondering if you even cared, if you even noticed, if you were even human anymore. And here's what nobody tells you about that moment. Here's the secret they don't want you to know. Your non-reaction wasn't weakness. It wasn't shock. It wasn't you being in denial, or trying to be mature, or taking the high road. No. Your non-reaction was the most sophisticated psychological weapon ever deployed in interpersonal warfare, and you didn't even realize you were holding a loaded gun. You see, while they were expecting tears, you gave them nothing. While they were waiting for anger, you gave them silence. While they anticipated drama, chaos, broken glass, and social media posts dripping with pain, you gave them absolutely zero ammunition, zero supply, zero emotional feedback to feed on. And that right there broke their entire playbook. Let me tell you what happened next, because this is where it gets beautiful. This is where your accidental genius turned into legendary status. They started panicking, not immediately. No. At first, they felt relief. They felt like they got away with it. Like you were too weak to fight back, too broken to respond. But then hours turned into days. Days turned into weeks. And your silence didn't break, didn't crack, didn't even whisper. And that's when the fear set in. That's when they started obsessively checking your stories, your posts, your activity status, desperately searching for signs of collapse, for evidence of suffering, for proof that they still had power over your emotional state. But you gave them nothing, absolutely nothing. And in that void, in that absence of reaction, their minds started filling in the blanks with their worst nightmares. Because here's what you need to understand about people who betray. They need your reaction more than they need air. They need to know they still matter, that they still have influence, that they can still make you feel something. Your pain is their validation. Your tears are their proof of significance. Your anger is their entertainment. But when you give them nothing, when you respond to their nuclear bomb with complete and total indifference, you rewrite the entire war. You become the anomaly in their equation, the variable that doesn't compute, the human being who somehow transcended the basic emotional responses they've spent their entire lives learning to manipulate. And now they're the ones losing sleep. Now they're the ones obsessing. Now they're the ones trapped in a psychological prison of their own making. You want to know why military intelligence agencies and corporate espionage divisions are now studying your exact response pattern? Yeah, you heard that right. There are actual professionals, trained operatives with degrees in psychology and decades of field experience, sitting in rooms analyzing the precise mechanics of your non-reaction, trying to reverse engineer it into a teachable methodology. They call it the Zero Echo Protocol. They've given it a name. They've created PowerPoint presentations. They've written case studies, all because you, in your moment of deepest betrayal, accidentally discovered what professional manipulators spend careers trying to perfect: complete emotional opacity, total psychological invisibility, the ability to absorb an attack and reflect absolutely nothing back. 20 years. Let that sink in for a second. 20 years of training, of simulations, of practice scenarios, of controlled environments where they teach operatives how to maintain composure under interrogation, how to withstand psychological torture, how to keep their faces blank when their loved ones are threatened in hypothetical scenarios. 20 years of that, and they still can't replicate what you did naturally in 20 seconds. You know why? Because their training is artificial. It's learned behavior layered over natural human responses. But you weren't performing. You weren't acting. You weren't trying to appear strong or unbothered or mature. You genuinely, authentically, on a cellular level, stopped giving them access to your emotional interior. You didn't fake indifference, you achieved it. And that's the difference between performance and transformation. Here's what really happened in that moment. The moment they were expecting you to shatter. Something inside you died. Yes, but not in the way they imagined. It wasn't your spirit that died. It wasn't your hope. It wasn't your capacity for love. What died was your need for their understanding. What died was your attachment to their version of reality. What died was the part of you that still believed people like them deserved explanations, closure, or the privilege of witnessing your pain. You underwent an instant evolution, a psychological mutation that typically takes people decades of therapy to achieve. You learned in one moment what most people never learn in a lifetime: that some people aren't owed your energy, your time, your tears, or your truth. They studied your face in that moment, did you know that? They were watching for the micro-expressions, the tiny muscle movements that betray internal emotional states. They were trained to read you, to catch the flicker of pain in your eyes, the tension in your jaw, the slight tremor in your hands. But you gave them nothing. Your face remained a perfect mask of neutrality, not because you were trying, but because somewhere deep in your neural pathways, a switch flipped. Your brain, in its infinite wisdom, recognized a threat and deployed the ultimate defense mechanism. You didn't just close the door. You removed the entire wall. You deleted the architecture of connection itself. And now they're teaching this in classrooms. I'm not joking. There are university psychology programs using your response pattern as a case study in advanced emotional regulation. There are therapy groups discussing the spontaneous detachment phenomenon, where individuals under extreme stress achieve instant Buddhist monk-level non-attachment without any formal training. There are neuroscience papers being written about the specific brain state you entered, that rare configuration of neural activity where the amygdala shuts down threat response because it's calculated that engagement itself is the greater danger. You became a scientific mystery by accident, just by refusing to play their game. Let's talk about what happened to them after your silence took hold, because this is the part they don't want anyone to know. In the days following their betrayal, when you maintained radio silence, when you didn't reach out, didn't confront, didn't demand explanations, didn't post cryptic quotes or sad songs, something started happening to their psychology. At first, they felt powerful. They felt like they'd won, like they'd gotten away with it clean. But humans are wired for closure, for completion, for responses that match actions. When you betray someone, your brain actually expects backlash. It prepares for consequences. It braces for impact. And when that impact never comes, when the expected response is replaced with eerie, unnatural silence, the brain doesn't interpret that as victory. It interprets it as existential threat. They started second-guessing everything. Were you okay? Were you too okay? Did you even care? Did they ever matter to you at all? Were you playing a longer game they couldn't see? The questions multiplied, spiraling into obsession. They found themselves checking your social media more than you ever checked theirs. They found themselves asking mutual friends about you with carefully casual questions that fooled no one. They found themselves lying awake at night, replaying the moment they betrayed you, analyzing your face, your words, your energy, searching desperately for clues they missed, for signs of weakness they could cling to. You had given them nothing to work with, nothing to decode, nothing to comfort themselves with. Your silence became their torture. And here's the beautiful irony. They did this to themselves. You weren't trying to punish them. You weren't playing mind games. You weren't strategically withholding reaction to make them suffer. You genuinely, authentically moved on so completely and thoroughly that they ceased to exist as a significant factor in your emotional landscape. You didn't need closure because you gave it to yourself. You didn't need answers because you already knew everything that mattered. They were capable of betrayal, and you were capable of surviving it. End of story. System reboot complete. Now here's where it gets really interesting, where your accidental genius becomes legendary. In the weeks and months following your non-reaction, they started noticing something disturbing about themselves. They couldn't move on. While you were out there, living your life, evolving, growing, becoming stronger versions of yourself, they were stuck, frozen in the moment of betrayal, trapped in an infinite loop of wondering why you didn't react. Their new relationships felt hollow because their new partners didn't have your energy. Their achievements felt empty because you weren't there to witness them. Their lives became haunted by your absence, not because you were gone, but because you left so completely, so thoroughly, with such absolute finality that there was no hope of return. And this is what breaks people like them. The realization that they lost someone who couldn't be replaced, someone who gave them something they didn't know was valuable until it was gone, someone whose presence in their life was so unique, so specific, so irreplaceable that every person who came after felt like a cheap imitation. They destroyed something precious, thinking they could find it again somewhere else, thinking the grass would be greener, thinking you were just another person in an infinite sea of options. But you weren't. And now they know it. And that knowledge is a prison sentence with no parole, no appeal, no possibility of early release. The intelligence agencies studying your response pattern identified 3 key elements that made it so devastatingly effective. First, the speed of deployment. You didn't take days or weeks to calm down and then choose silence. You went silent immediately, cutting off their supply of emotional feedback before they could even finish their betrayal. This instantaneous withdrawal created a psychological whiplash effect, where they went from expecting maximum drama to receiving absolute zero in less than 60 seconds. Second, the completeness of the cutoff. You didn't give them breadcrumbs, didn't leave doors slightly open, didn't maintain just enough contact to keep hope alive. You went full scorched earth, total communication blackout, complete psychological separation. Third, the authenticity of indifference. They could tell you weren't performing, weren't faking, weren't pretending. Your energy genuinely shifted from invested to void, and that authenticity made it impossible for them to rationalize or cope. They tried to replicate this in training scenarios and failed every single time. You know why? Because you can't teach genuine emotional detachment to people who are only performing it. You can teach someone to keep a straight face, sure. You can teach someone to control their words, their body language, their visible reactions. But you can't teach someone to genuinely stop caring on command. You can't manufacture authentic indifference. You can't fake the specific energy signature of someone who has truly, completely, irreversibly moved on from caring about your opinion, your presence, or your existence. That's not a skill. That's a state of being. And you achieved it naturally because your survival instinct was stronger than your need for closure. Let's go deeper into the mechanics of what you did, because this is where it becomes a masterclass in psychological warfare without even trying. When they betrayed you, they were expecting a predictable sequence of events: shock, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. The classic grief cycle. They had scripts prepared for each stage, responses ready, manipulations planned. But you skipped the entire cycle. You went from discovery straight to complete detachment, bypassing all the stages they were prepared to exploit. This created a system error in their manipulation matrix. They couldn't proceed to step 2 because you never gave them step 1. Their entire playbook became useless. Their years of practice manipulating human emotion suddenly irrelevant because you weren't following human emotional patterns. Your brain did something extraordinary in that moment. It recognized the betrayal not as a personal attack requiring emotional processing, but as information requiring strategic response. And the optimal strategic response to a hostile actor is complete disengagement, no energy expenditure, no resource allocation, no attention given. You treated them like a computer treats a deleted file, not with hatred, not with anger, just with absolute indifference, as if they never existed in the first place. And this is what professional interrogators and intelligence operatives train decades to achieve. The ability to receive devastating information and process it as pure data rather than emotional stimulus. They're writing textbooks about you now. Actual textbooks. Chapter titles include The Spontaneous Achievement of Operational Detachment, Zero Feedback Loops, and Psychological Dominance. And my personal favorite, When the Target Becomes the Operator, Accidental Mastery of Emotional Warfare Protocols. These aren't metaphors. These are real academic and military publications, analyzing the specific psychological mechanisms you deployed without formal training. You're being studied in the same way they study natural savants, people who can perform complex mathematical calculations instantly without knowing how, people who can play music perfectly without lessons. You're an emotional warfare savant. Here's what's happening right now in their mind, years later. Because yes, this is still affecting them. They're sitting somewhere, maybe in a relationship, maybe alone, and suddenly a song plays that reminds them of you, or they see someone who walks like you, or they catch a scent that triggers a memory, and in that moment, the wound reopens. Not because they miss you, but because they're reminded of the one person who ever looked at them and decided they weren't worth a reaction. The one person who saw their betrayal and responded with such complete indifference that it called into question everything they believed about their own significance. You didn't just reject them, you didn't just leave them. You erased them from your book of people who matter. And that erasure is permanent. The psychological impact of your non-reaction created what researchers now call inverse narcissistic injury. Normally, when you hurt someone and they react with pain, anger, or pleading, it confirms your power over them, your significance in their life. But when you hurt someone and they respond with nothing, with genuine void-level indifference, it creates a devastating realization. I wasn't important enough to hurt. I wasn't significant enough to warrant a reaction. My betrayal wasn't even worth acknowledging. This destroys the ego at a fundamental level because it strips away the illusion of importance that most people desperately cling to. And here's the ultimate irony. They'll never be able to use what you did against someone else. Even now, knowing what you did, understanding the mechanics, seeing the effectiveness, they can't replicate it because your power came from authenticity, from genuine transformation, from real evolution. They're still operating from ego, from performance, from manipulation. They can practice the silence, they can withhold reactions, they can play the game, but it will always be just that. A game, a performance, a fake. And people can smell fake from miles away. Your power was in the truth of your indifference. Their attempts will always be transparent lies. 20 years of training versus 20 seconds of transformation. Professional operatives with unlimited resources versus one person who just got tired of caring. Sophisticated psychological warfare techniques developed over decades versus accidental genius born from survival instinct. And you won. You didn't just win. You redefined the playing field. You didn't just survive. You evolved. You didn't just move on. You transcended, and now they're studying you, teaching you, trying desperately to understand how someone with no training, no preparation, no formal education in psychological warfare could deploy the most effective emotional defense mechanism ever documented. You want to know the real reason they're so obsessed with understanding your response? It's not academic curiosity. It's not professional interest. It's fear. Because if one person can naturally achieve what takes them decades to learn, if one person can accidentally stumble into mastery-level emotional warfare capabilities, then everything they've built their careers on, everything they've spent years learning, every technique they've perfected, you represent the natural evolution of human psychology beyond their control systems. You're proof that authentic transformation beats manufactured composure every single time. So here you are, living your life, probably not even thinking about them anymore. Definitely not dwelling on the betrayal. Almost certainly not aware that you've become a case study in multiple academic and professional fields. You're just existing, breathing, moving forward with your life, and somewhere in a classroom, in a training facility, in a psychology lab, someone is showing your response pattern to a room full of people and saying, this is the goal. This is what we're trying to achieve. And those people are taking notes, asking questions, running simulations, trying desperately to replicate what you did without thinking.